Look at this thing in the water. Pale, almost pink, like something that lives under a bandage and should never see daylight. Those aren't really eyes, just two dark smudges under the skin, and it is, right now, alive. But I want you to actually watch it and time it, because for the next full minute, it is not going to move. Not a twitch. It hasn't eaten in years. Not days, years. It cannot see the light I'm shining on it, and it will still be lying here, in this exact crack in the rock, in this exact black water, long after you and I and everyone we know is dead. This animal is going to live for 100 years, and I haven't even told you the strangest part yet. The reason that for its entire century-long life, it stays, quite literally, a baby. Stay with me. Because for 1,000 years, the people who found these creatures believed they'd found something else entirely. They thought they'd found a dragon. This is an olbum, and it lives in a place almost nothing else can survive, the flooded caves deep under the mountains of the Balkans, Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, in underground water that has never, not once, seen the sun. Start with the dragon, because it isn't a joke. For centuries, the people living above these caves knew that after heavy rain, the underground rivers would swell and burst up out of the rock, and sometimes, washed out with the floodwater, would come these pale, writhing, long-bodied things with frilly red crests, like nothing anyone had ever seen crawl on the earth. And they had an explanation ready. Deep inside the mountain lived dragons, and when the rains came, the water was flushing out the dragon's young. So that's what they called it, the baby dragon. And honestly, when you finally see one, the pale serpent body, the little clawed hands, the blood-red gills flaring off the sides of its head like a tiny mane, you understand completely. It looks exactly like a dragon that forgot to finish growing up. There's a gentler name for it, too. Up in those same villages, they also call it the human fish, because that pale, soft, faintly pink skin, with a blush of blood showing through from underneath, looks unsettlingly like our own. And it holds a quiet little place in history most people never hear about. When a naturalist first wrote the olm up, back in the 1700s, it became the very first cave animal ever formally described by science. Before it, almost nobody believed anything could truly live out its whole life underground, in permanent dark, sealed away from the sun. This one pale creature is a big part of the reason we now know there's a whole hidden world down there at all. And forgot to finish growing up turns out to be the single most accurate thing anyone has ever said about it. Because think about how an amphibian is supposed to work. A frog, a newt, it starts life as a larva in the water, soft and gilled, and then it grows up. It loses the gills, it changes shape, it climbs out and becomes an adult. That's the deal. That's the whole story of being an amphibian. The olm just doesn't. It keeps those feathery baby gills, that soft larval body, for its entire life. It grows up enough to breed, but it never actually becomes an adult. It stays, physically, a baby for 100 years. It is the Peter Pan of the animal kingdom. And I don't mean that as a cute line. This is an animal that is born a child and dies of old age still a child, an entire century later, having never once grown up. And that is only where the strangeness starts, because here is what 100 years in total darkness actually looks like. It looks like almost nothing at all. Scientists spent years, real calendar years, tracking individual wild olms in a cave, marking them, coming back, checking where each one had gone. And the results broke the tools they were measuring with. Some of these animals did not move. One olm was found in the same spot, having shifted barely a few feet, for over 7 years. 7 years, in one place, in the dark. Think of the stillest you have ever had to be, a long flight, a waiting room, a sleepless night. Now stretch that out past 2,500 days. For this animal, that isn't suffering. That's just Tuesday. It has nowhere to be and no reason on earth to hurry, so it simply waits. And it isn't even waiting for food because it barely eats at all. Down in the deep cave, there's almost nothing to eat. A few blind cave shrimp, a scrap or two washed down from the world above. So the olm has done something genuinely astonishing with its own body. It has slowed itself down to the very edge of not being alive. Its heart barely beats, and when the food runs out completely, it can simply keep going for years, up to a full decade, by dropping its metabolism to a crawl, and when it truly has to, reabsorbing its own tissue and living off itself, shrinking, holding on, waiting for something, anything, to drift past in the black. 10 years without a single meal. There are people who haven't made it 10 hours, and it has been quietly getting away with all of this for an almost unbelievable stretch of time. The Ohm's kind has been living in these caves, more or less unchanged, for millions of years, calmly outlasting the mammoths, the cave bears, the whole parade of famous animals that came and went in the sunlight above it. While the world up top tore itself down and rebuilt itself over and over, the Ohm just kept doing the one thing it is utterly perfect at, almost nothing, extremely slowly in the dark. So it doesn't move and it doesn't eat and it can't see, so how does it find anything at all? Here's the thing, it didn't just go blind, it gave its eyes up on purpose. Eyes are worthless where there has never been light, so a young Ohm's eyes actually start to form, and then stop, and the skin quietly grows over them. But it traded up. Its bare skin can still feel light, faintly, just enough to always flee back toward the dark. It has a staggering sense of smell. It can taste the chemistry of the water, and like a shark, it can feel the tiny electric fields thrown off by other living things moving nearby. It can even sense the Earth's own magnetic field, lining itself up to a compass no human hand has ever felt. In absolute darkness, it builds a full picture of its world out of scent and chemistry and electricity and magnetism, a picture you and I can't even imagine, because we have never spent one single second in the kind of dark this animal has never once left. And then, every so often, maybe once a decade, maybe less, it does something that stops being eerie and turns almost tender. It breeds. In total darkness, by smell alone, two Ohms find one another, and the female lays her eggs one at a time, and then she does the one thing almost nothing else in that cave will ever do. She stays. She guards them. For months, a few years ago, in a cave in Slovenia, an Ohm laid a clutch of eggs in a tank, and the whole world got to watch it happen on a camera rigged in the dark, thousands of people tuning in, day after day, to a live stream of a dragon guarding her eggs beneath a mountain. Most of the eggs never make it, but the few that do hatch into tiny, pale, blind baby dragons that, if they are lucky, will still be lying in that same black water in the year 2126. And if a blind dragon that lives a century in the dark and hasn't moved in 7 years is the kind of thing you want more of, do me a favor and subscribe. There's a new wild survival story here every week. Now stay with me, because there's one last twist, and it's the one that should actually worry you. Because for all of it, the 100 years of life, the decade without food, the surviving basically unchanged for millions of years, while the entire world above it was rearranged again and again, the Ohm has one catastrophic weakness. Its whole universe is that water. And that water comes down from the ground above, our ground. Everything we pour onto the land, every drop of pollution, every chemical we spill and forget, eventually seeps down through the rock and into these hidden rivers. And the Ohm, sealed away in its perfect dark, has no defense against it whatsoever. An animal that can go a decade without eating, that can outlive 3 human generations, that shrugged off ice ages that erased far tougher creatures, can be quietly wiped out of an entire cave system by what we spill on the surface, without any of us ever knowing it was down there at all. The oldest, most patient survivor in Europe is completely at our mercy. And it doesn't even have the eyes to see us coming. So our Olmir, the pale blind one from the very start, the one I told you to time, the one that would not move, it's still there. It didn't shift an inch while I told you any of this, and it won't tonight or tomorrow or next year. It will lie in that crack in the rock, in water blacker than anything you've ever stood in, barely breathing, not eating, not aging the way everything else ages, reading a world of smell and electricity. We will never feel, and it will still be there, unchanged, when the children born this year have gone gray. It doesn't survive by being fast, or fierce, or clever. It survives by refusing almost entirely to live at all and then doing that for 100 years. So if this strange, patient little dragon got under your skin, subscribe. There's a new wild survival story here every single week. And be honest with me, down in the comments, if you could do what it does, lie perfectly still in the cool and the dark, feeling no hunger, no hurry, and no fear for 100 years. Does that sound to you like a prison, or like the most peaceful thing you have ever heard? Because somewhere under a mountain in the Balkans tonight, in the dark, one of them is doing exactly that, and it will still be doing it long after you and I, and everyone we will ever know, are gone.